With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
So far, so dominant for both the series on the docket tonight. Its two top drivers have looked sensational, but tonight the challenges get ready to reign supreme as we begin the night with the Precision Racing League's Rule 4 Series, powered by VCO. Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's action as we get ready to see how things fare out to start off the night in the iRacing IR04. Welcome to Mount Panorama. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Joey Devitt as we get all set to go racing with our producer Hugo Wees from the mountainside. It's a racetrack you've been looking forward to all season because you never know what's going to happen on the mountain, especially with open wheel cars.
Yeah, we don't often get to see open wheel cars here in real life. We were going to run the S2000 series here in real life, and they took that away because they thought it was too dangerous, which is understandable, I guess, but with the power of iRacing, with the power of virtual racing, we can put, 25 IR04 cars at Bathurst, and we can see what the heck happens.
A lot to discuss when it comes to tonight, as just talked about Mount Panorama Circuit, Bathurst, the host of tonight's action. Let's take a look towards the full schedule if we can, because keep in mind, this could be one of the most challenging races of the season. Laguna Seca and Road Atlanta just prior to this round. Plenty of Grand Prix style circuits after this. This may be the attrition round.
Yeah, Road Atlanta and Laguna Seca both had their fair share of troubles, but those were mostly just spin troubles. There's not a lot of runoff at either of those places, but there's a tiny little bit, and there's a little bit of a margin for error. But at Bathurst, if you make one mistake, there's a concrete wall waiting for you at basically every single corner on the track. So this is the place that's going to reward making no mistakes whatsoever. You've got to survive for 35 minutes here at probably the toughest track you can send an open wheel car to.
Keep in mind, throughout those two races, it hasn't been easy for your points leader entering tonight, but he just so happens to have a sizable advantage with 2 victories. Hamilton Akabuizi has the advantage over Guillaume Pavin and Kevin Santana. Those drivers 12 points back. Then you have Matt Bartolowski along with Dave Peterson, the top 5. Intriguing to start things off for the campaign. Keep in mind, the driver currently 8th in the standings has already a DNS to factor in for the drop.
Andrew Moran was so quick in week 1 and didn't show up at Laguna Seca last week, unfortunately. Josh Conker as well couldn't race last week. He's not here this week as well because of real-life commitments with go-karting over in Cincinnati. Those are 2 drivers who could really take the fight to Hamilton Akabuizi, but looking over at the practice sheets right now, Hamilton Akabuizi hasn't even set a qualifying time yet, so this race could be blown wide open.
And keep in mind, a majority of those drivers team-wise, it's worth noting, are with YS Motorsports Black specifically. Lone Tranny Racing also dominates majority of the top 15. Those two teams very much populating the driver field for this season, but keep in mind, VHR Racing and YS Motorsports Gold still amongst a close top 4 separated by just 18 points.
The team standings are always fun to watch because it just evens itself out every single time. Hamilton Akabuizi, we're going to mention him all season because he has been unbeatable in the first 2 rounds. He's a privateer. He's running all on his lonesome this season. He has no teammates, so he can't win the team's championship all alone, and it comes down to every other team, all the rest of the field, who can pick up the most pieces, who can be the most consistent. There's all the greatest hits of all of our PRL series, from Private Label Team Hype to YS Motorsports to VHR to Crikey Esports. Who knows who's going to come out on top? It all comes down to consistency.
Crikey indeed tonight may bring some challenges for some competitors. 35 minutes on the clock, that distance 15 laps here at this big circuit. Big setups, remember, with the 50% maximum fuel load. Not mandatory for pit stops, but they are potentially expected with the lap times more than 2 minutes tonight. Drivers currently are in the midst of getting track position in 20 laps of open qualifying. As per usual in the PRL, drive-throughs at 13 incident points, disqualifications at 17 incident points. That may be hard to get to here unless you end up losing all your wheels 7 times.
Yeah, I was about to say exactly the same thing. It's going to be hard to accumulate multiple incident points here when 1 incident point or 2 incident points is usually a race-ending accident, but crazier things have happened. If you're dipping it off in the grass in the chase a lot, I guess, you might have to worry about it, but it's going to be pretty hard to hit 17x tonight.
As the drivers complete their qualifying session, I'd like to take the time to remind you of tonight's coverage, being brought to you by VCO, the virtual competition organization. Also brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available on the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Also brought to you by Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts. Casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxers are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Tonight also brought to you by RaceLab Apps. RaceLab helps you improve your driving skills with modern overlays, race statistics, and a VR integration. You can get the most out of sim racing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. By the Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products include incredible merge and bring realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. And by Ninja Trader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting more than 60,000 users across the globe, Ninja Trader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trade simulator and start tracking your performance. Speaking of tracking performance, as drivers round out qualifying, a few competitors wrapping up their times at the moment. Kevin Santana is at the top of the board with a 2:07.324. Already amongst those who have completed their respective sessions for tonight, about 6 or 7 drivers, up to 8, are currently looking to also complete their times. Joey, as mentioned, this track expected to be very challenging, especially off the jump. Track position could be very important around the 6.2 kilometer circuit.
And in the last 3 minutes or so, since I mentioned that Hamilton Akabuizi had failed to get a lap time in, he got a lap time in, but he certainly waited until the last possible minute with about 2 minutes to go in the session. He finally popped it up to second, got jumped by Guillaume Pauvin, and then he was able to improve with 1 more lap after that to go up to second. But that's the first time he hasn't been, he hasn't been on the front row before this season, but Kevin Santana will beat him to the start here, and it's going to be a track where it's hard to pass the top of the hill. Then you'll get spat out of this very, very long straight where it should be fairly easy to stay within the draft and go for a move if you're in Akabuizi's position. But this is him on the off foot for the first time. We'll have to see how he really adapts to that. And Ryan Kings goes to pole. That's a surprise in the dying seconds of the session. We know he always has speed in the MX-5s, but look at that. Ryan Kings on pole.
Ryan Kings, who DNF'd last race in DNS to start the season for Cranky Esports, to the top of the board. Right on board with Marcellus Bruning, trying to see if he can try and take the excitement out of Kings. Down to under 90 seconds to work with. No. 207.9 for the 61 machine. And that should just about round things out. Only Corey Precker can set a time, and in fact, Corey Precker is slowing down. So this car, Ryan Kings, for the first time, is on the pole. How about that to turn things around after a DNF last time?
You can never count Ryan Kings out. He's a driver who it's impossible to predict sometimes. But the one thing you can predict is that he's going to bring everything in qualifying. He's going to bring a lot of speed, a lot of aggression. He must have gotten some help down the back straight, because it's a very, very long back straight. A draft helps, especially at a track like this. And while Ryan Kings isn't working with his Dark Horse Esports teammates here, Kevin Sandiego and Kelly Greenhoe, he is working with Crikey Esports. So he might have gotten a little bit of help from his teammates, a big draft to make up a couple tenths. Either way, it was a great lap, and you need some help to get on pole here. Santana and Akabuizi, I'm sure, had some as well, but it's a great lap for Kings.
Michael Blaze was that assistance, but the drivers are all peeled off except for Corey Precker, who is testing how to start things off for tonight. Speaking of which, the driver's just a few moments away from getting things started here for tonight's action for the PRL and the IR04s from the mountainside. As the drivers get themselves all situated and ready to go for tonight's standing start, it's time to get ready to look at how they'll start off tonight from the mountain at Bathurst. A grand total of 27 entrants ready to get racing, 23 setting qualifying times. Ryan King's the first of them on the pylon. His first pole of the season with a 207.293. Kevin Santana starts in second, while Akabuizi, the points leader, starts in third. Jan Paven, in the midst of the top three, starts in fourth for this race. David Cristelli for White Flag Racing in fifth. So is Bruning for YS Motorsports Gold rounds up the top six. Andrew Moran makes the start tonight in the 208 bracket with Matt Boski. Keep in mind the 111 did not set a practice time before qualifying. Michael Blaze and Corey Precker the top 10. Owen McLaughlin, the 90 machine, starts in 11th spot tonight for Blown Tranny Racing, while Zachary Yurt starts in 12th. Evan Puckett starts 13th with Philippe Magnan in the 14th position. Samuel Ma and David Hebert, the top 16. Then you have Sean Duhamel and Dave Peterson, teammates for VHR Racing mid-pack. Bob Cohen starts 19th with Austin Harris, Kevin Berquist, and Tyler Gore, the top 22. The last to set a time was Brad Winter. The rest of the field did not set qualifying times. Those drivers include Michael Kolinka, along with Ian Cabana, Bruce Bridges, and Thomas Coyle. That's a look top to bottom at tonight's starting grid for the IR04s from Bathurst. Wait for the last few moments as drivers get themselves sorted and situated for the standing start. They're all set to go. Are you ready to go? It's time to go racing. We're underway from Bathurst. And a poor launch for Kings. Kings loses the lead already to Kevin Santana. Most of the field trying to single file up for the opening corner as they make their way up the mountain straight.
It was a bad start by Kings, but that might actually not be a bad thing in the grand scheme of things. He's going to get a huge draft on Santana here. If he can stick with him through the top of the hill, through the most difficult part of the track, he might have a shot to take that back on the back straight. But I saw Akabuizi already on the attack on Kings. They may be going side by side up through Quarry Bend. Not quite. Akabuizi backs out of it, probably smartly on lap one.
Kings still wanting a chance heading towards the cutting. Back out of it. No incidents, though, for the opening quarters. Kings nearly has one as he loses second. There goes Akabuizi. Here comes Paven trying to make it side by side through the tight sections. Kings with the squeeze.
You do not want to be going side by side through here. I don't know how Guillaume Pauvin found that hole there. I don't know how he didn't make contact with Kings either. Almost throws it into the wall through Reed Park there. I don't know how they're getting away with this, but down through the hill, this is a place where you especially don't want to be going side by side. Down through Skyline, the S's, and then the Dipper coming up. But everybody makes it through, at least on lap one, but Kings is throwing that thing around.
Kings with not the greatest of starts, to say the very least. Already back to the 4th spot in the opening laps. Starting to lose touch with the draft, nearly hitting the wall with a force elbow for good measure. Look at the battle for the lead. Here comes Akabuizi to the right side of the track. Gonna make the move on the 666 of Santana. Santana holding it firm, heading to the chase.
This is what it's going to be all about here, all race long. This straight is going to decide the winner of this race. You need to be able to stick together. You need to make sure that either Kevin Santana or Akabuizi doesn't drive off into the sunset and get out of that draft range. Because as long as you're within range, you're going to have a shot on the last lap to beat whoever is in the lead there. Povan's trying to go around the outside of Akabuizi here, but the outside there, you got to do a lot of work to make that work. Akabuizi is too strong on the inside. He's going to hang on, but Povan's not going away, and this is allowing Kevin Santana to expand that gap.
A strong start for the race. Only 2 drivers with incidents on the opening lap. Austin Harris, who started from the pit lane and crashed it at the top of the hill. And Bruce Bridges, who just crashed it in the chase on his own. Battle on for second. Here comes Pavan. Kane's trying to fall behind Akabuizi. Always so difficult through Griffin's Bend, and that is why touching tires as here comes Akabuizi to clear.
It's so hard to go side by side through there. It's so easy to just turn in on the car in front of you and take you both out. They're still trying to go side by side up through the hill, through the cutting. Is Povan going to give Akabuizi enough room? Yes, he is, but it is scary, scary stuff every single time through there. King is going to try and repay the favor and make the same move that Povan made on him a lap ago. It is such tight quarters up through the top of the hill, but these cars are so small that I guess as long as you're giving each other just enough room, you can get away with it. But it is not going to cease to be this terrifying if they're doing this for 13 more laps.
Absolutely. Currently, the gap between first and second about 1.5, 1.4 seconds, keep in mind. Though the shuffling, David Cristelli has closed up Moran as well. The main pack, 8 cars deep, mind you, so far through the train, and there goes trouble as Pavan into the wall. Pavan from the top 3 has crashed in the 649.
That looked like it was some horrific netcode, unfortunately. Ryan Kings looked like he's riding damaged a little bit further ahead. I don't know if there was contact or that was just Pavan losing it on his own. Let's take a look. No, Pavan lost it on his own. Kings didn't actually hit him. He just checked up, and that killed his momentum coming down the back straight. So no damage for Kings, definitely damage for Pavan, but the spinny IRO4, it took a couple more laps, and Kings does it as well.
Keynes ends up with contact tire to tires. Cristelli runs away from it. The heart of the pack and several of your top 10 drivers of the points early are already significantly destroyed. Burning and Moran both towing. And just like that, Santana, Akabuizi, and Cristelli have a 5-second gap for the rest of the train.
Thought this was going to be a race of attrition coming in. I think we've been proven right so far, 3 laps into the race, but it's been at weird places. These are not the places I expected to see the attrition coming. Kings was just trying to go side by side with Moran there, and they just had a little bit too much of an argument. The wheels intersected, and that was also Mark Bruning, who had nowhere to go behind, and that's 3 strong cars wiped out in a very, very weird place. They went side by side up over the top of the mountain for an entire half of a lap, and then through the chase, they couldn't quite get away with it. But that's just how the cookie crumbles in Australia. That's how the biscuit crumbles.
Indeed, I guess you can say, as Michael Blaze, once those able to get through cleanly through the trouble, up to 6th position. Remember, he helped the pole sitter get that time in qualifying. 100, currently mid-pack in the point standings entering tonight.
Michael Blaze got a little bit of an ouchie from last week at Road Atlanta. He was issued a points penalty, I believe, for causing contact. I could not tell you who. I should probably remember that, but either way, he's got even more recovery to do after that penalty, and he's been doing a good job. Like you said, he helped out our pole sitter, Ryan Kings. He's still on track. He had a couple of spins at Road Atlanta last week. That's the main objective here, keeping it on track, keeping it out of the walls, bring it to the finish tonight, and you're basically guaranteed a top 10.
Downside is the assistants did not come to break through in the end. Kings has just DNF'd on the night. Tyler Gore has also just crashed in the mid-pack. The rest of the cars, though, are all trying to figure out a way to get up to Kevin Santana. How do you try and do that at such a draft-dependent track when, well, the draft's already broken? That's what happened to Tyler Gore, but
Exactly the same thing that happened to Pauvin, basically. Just down the hill, the elevation changes, the weight shifts, and Tyler Gore couldn't really save that. But Hamilton to Caboese is actually bringing that gap down just by virtue of being faster than Kevin Santana, I guess. But if you're Cristelli, if you're Rzewski, Precker, any of those guys, your hope is that they both meet each other again like they did at the beginning of the race. They start fighting constantly, they slow each other down, they bring the pack back together. But unless you have the pace to catch Kevin Santana, which I don't think anybody but a Caboese has, you just got to hope that those two start fighting hard here. Precker sends it to the inside of Rzewski coming up into quarry.
Precker trying to be brave. Nearly had a little bit of wheel hop from the back tires to the apex. 111 tries to keep it up on the left side. No. There goes Precker. Also, Pavan was let go by Michael Blaze right behind him. You mentioned that gap reducing. That gap is down to 9/10 of a second up the front. These drivers might be in the midst of closing up to third, however, if they keep working together. They are reeling Cristelli down 4/10 last time.
Problem with working together is that you could do a little bit of a Daytona style, you know, draft jumping like you could do at some tracks. If we went to a track with an even longer straight like Le Mans, for example, that might actually be an effective strategy to kind of jump each other and move forward. But here, it's not really going to work. For as long as you're in a pack like this, you're going to be slowing each other down because you're going to be so close in places like this where you need the highest possible commitment up over the top of the mountain, then back down. They're just slowing each other down. But their hope is that the drivers in front of them meet each other and slow each other down as well. That's a huge crash.
A pileup coming out of the elbow now. Amongst those, Peterson, Puckett. Several drivers already out as a result of the contact. See several of them still stuck on the side. Sean Duhamel has also joined the incident. That was amongst the top 10 train that has lost a few cars from, well, this.
And it's the same thing we've seen. There's been one corner every single time we've run one of these IRO4 races that has caught everybody out. And unfortunately for Evan Puckett, he has met the cursed Forest Bend here. And he also wiped out basically all of VHR Racing with that. And Rzewski's the next driver to throw it off the road. That's through the final corner. I think he must have just outbraked himself there.
It's 9 seconds back of the podium. Cristelli continuing to build a buffer with the wrestling match. Here comes Blaze now to join the fray. So now the damage, Pavan leading this respective pack as a result of the shuffling. He's getting dragged. Alski also getting a little bit of tow. Magnan also trying to get some tow in this. But still, it's Precker with the better tow, holding on firm. No, Blaze sends it regardless and holds it.
And the inside is really the place to be there. It's not banked necessarily, but it is cambered a little bit, and it is so hard to go around the outside there, and it's so dangerous as well because you can just get spat into the wall. So if you can meet the inside, if you can find the inside coming into Quarry Bend there, you're basically guaranteed to make a move as long as you have a nose inside and the driver in front doesn't chop you off. But Caboese has met Santana here. This is exactly what Cristelli wanted to see. And now he's just hoping that Caboese fights with Kevin here, slows him down, and doesn't just ride behind and wait for 10 more laps to make the move conservatively.
Remember, he sent it to the right side, trying to make the move. The first chance he got on the opening lap of this race. It's taken him a few minutes to get to this part. Big pileup for fifth on back, but for the race lead, Caboese looks to try and see if he can make it look easy for the point. The 107 once again with the pole on Santana. Caboese might have to try and make it work from the right side to the chase. Santana made it stick last time in the section of the braking. This time he tries to send him in the grass. Caboese sent to the grass, holds on to it.
Little bit of a force off by Santana there, but Caboese did a good job to save it. He kept it straight through the grass, didn't try and recorrect to get back on track and spin himself out like Ryan Kings did a little bit. But that was aggressive by Kevin Santana, and that was kind of a statement there. You can try and go around the outside of me, Hamilton, but you're going to have a tough time of it. Let's see what happened to Michael Blaze here coming down the hill. Coming down the mountain, rather. It's more than a hill. He just got offline, and there's no avoiding that when that happens, and there's basically a full track blockage there. We wiped out about 4 cars. Caboese, Blaze, Blaze, Magnan, Duhamel. That was earlier. Rzewski. Chaos.
Precker also coming in. Ravelski just parked it for the night. That's the result of the incident. Cabana also coming in. So just like that, the attrition has now collected about half the field. In our words, the fight for the lead could get even more interesting if that can break out again. For these two, at least. Not to put on the chase.
It's entirely possible that these two could come to blows. We saw what happened at the chase in the last lap. If Akabuizi gets a little bit more aggressive, decides to rejoin in a little bit more of an awkward way, which I don't think he would do, takes out Kevin Santana, suddenly this is David Cristelli's race to win with a 6-second lead.
Keep in mind, Cristelli, with these two scrapping a bit and going for a bit of jumps, going through the cutting down the hillside, mountainside, is closing on these two drivers every time they go side by side, so keep that in mind. Akabuizi a little bit more further back as they built up a buffer over Cristelli in the mountain.
It's a little bit further back this time than it was the previous time, but this is actually potentially a good thing for him. It allows him to build up a little bit more momentum, allows him to slingshot a little bit more. Again, Santana's going to block to the inside. He's going to force Hamilton to the outside. I think Hamilton was thinking that Kevin might leave him an opening on the inside, but actually he's going to completely back out of that move. Elects that it's probably safer to just stick behind Kevin for the moment. He's going to go to the outside in the final corner, though. I have to imagine he's going to back out of that as well. Around the outside in the final corners. Not usually a move that works. He's going to try it anyway. Kevin's going to give him room, but Hamilton's going to go a little bit wide. They're still going to be side by side into turn one, and he's actually going to be able to clear him around the outside. But is that going to be the move to make? Because Kevin's going to be right back at him coming up the hill to Quarry Bend.
That'll be the tough thing. Will it be the matter of the slipstream, or will it be the matter of the positioning as well as the confidence in the technical section? Santana, no move this time, it appears. Easy making sure of it with a defensive move, trying to take away the line going to Griffin's Bend. The inside has been the preferred line to make the passes that section. Of note, Pavan has pit from the main group, so scheduled stops may be starting to come into play a bit as a result of some of that attrition.
Pavan might just be trying to get out of trouble, just run his own laps instead of fighting with Ma and McLaughlin and Zachary Yurt and the rest of that gang. It's about halfway in the race, so it makes sense, but this also looks like a very, very long stop, so I think Pavan might actually be a little bit damaged. I can't imagine he's reached any sort of instant limit. That would be a drive-through. He wouldn't be in his box, but 31.2 seconds. Unless he forgot to take his tires off, and Akabuizi almost knocked down the wall there.
I was about to say, I think he did hit the wall. No damage visible, though, on the 107. That could have been a major moment. Instead, he holds on and gains time from it over Santana.
Yeah, that really set Santana off. It set him off his rhythm. He lost like 0.6 of a second coming down the hill. He must have just had a little bit of target fixation there. One mistake from Akabuizi would have normally set him off his rhythm for the rest of the S's down the hill, but it actually set Santana off his rhythm behind him.
Still 0.7 the difference. No time really gained at all down the straightaway by Santana. Akabuizi, well, he is pulling away as a result of that cornering speed. It's worth noting that they may reach a bit of traffic here. Some of the drivers from the track blockers have gotten their damage repaired after lengthy tows. Thomas Coyle is exiting the pit lane right in front of these drivers. In fact, right beside them.
See if they'll be able to clear Coyle luckily here, but I say luckily, probably not luckily for Kevin Santana. He's hoping that Akabuizi runs into a little bit of lap traffic, because this race, it's only been a lap, or about half a lap since Akabuizi took the lead, but this looks like the previous two races where Akabuizi took the lead and then drove off into the sunset without looking behind him. So Santana's got to push very, very hard here, stick within about 0.6 of a second, because where he is now, 8.5 tenths behind, he's just at the limited draft range. He's not quite close enough. He's got to stick with Akabuizi a little bit closer here to make sure he doesn't drive off into the sunset and maybe hope for another mistake going down the hill here.
Or that's the figurative way. The in-sim is just about 10 a.m., mind you, so we aren't expecting it to be, oh, and that's the replay from Pavan. He is out of the race.
Yeah, that would probably be why Pavan was in the pits for 30-something seconds. Hamilton Akabuizi, I think we just lost him from the lead of the race with his internet, but now he's back finally, and Kevin Santana was just kind of running qualifying mode there for a moment because there wasn't a car in front of him. And that actually helped him a little bit. He brought the gap down just a little bit, and he might actually be within draft range coming down the back straight here.
And about a couple tenths, if that, to be able to close things down a little bit. How this plays out for the rest of this fight. We're at the halfway point of the race. Question will also be, when do they pit? We've already seen pit stops. Well, non-damage related ones, it appears, of about 2. Cabana and Gore, everybody else yet to pit for a scheduled stop yet.
And everybody else is actually literally the only other drivers left in this race. There's only 14 drivers left on the lead lap. That's about half the field. We've wiped out half the field in the initial half of this race. Hopefully that trend doesn't continue. I hope we've got more than 10 cars in the lead lap coming to the end here. But look at how close Santana has brought this gap down. Not quite close enough, I think, to go for a move down this straight or to peek to the inside at all, but Santana has stuck with the Caboese here. He's done exactly what he needed to do. He's recovered the pace. He's not letting Hamilton drive off. He's just sticking with him, and that's all he needs to do here. Just keep him company and make sure you're close enough on the last lap or the last couple of laps to actually make the move.
Caboese still holding firm in the clean air, and that's the thing too when it comes to the IRL4 that might come into play a lot. That might not be thought about a lot, is that potential clean air, because talk with some with open wheel machinery in these levels, in the corners, it could be a challenge with the aero. By the way, the battling is going on still for 7th, 8th, and 9th. That's Moran making the move for 8th, in fact, on Bergquist.
Moran's on a recovery drive after his little argument with Ryan Kings down at the chase. Definitely a lot lower than he should be. Bob Cohn is next on his list. That should be slightly easy pickings for Moran, but he's gotta pick the place to do it in that true blue IRO4. You love to see it in Australia. True blue. Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Let's see if he can get by Bob Cohn. He should be able to down the back straight. He's sticking with him. This should be easy pickings for Andrew Moran.
Have you ran that by the Australians on the RaceSpotTV?
I'm disappointed with the way I delivered that. I wasn't Australian prepared. I needed to do a little bit more voice preparation, and Kevin Bergquist has binned it.
And there goes Bergquist. His orange machine. It's hit the bin as we take a look at the race leaders. We are down to a grand total of about 13 cars still running on the lead lap. Race leaders trying to stretch it. This is how he lost one. That's how you can do it.
Grass is no good. Just tried to take a little bit too much speed through basically the fastest corner on the track there. Dipped it off of the grass. And speaking of dipping it off of the grass, there's Caboese.
The race leader has made his first mistake of the day. Too strong as Santana takes it back. Caboese now on the back foot, approaching the pit stop window.
That's a mistake that we haven't seen all season from a Caboese. He has been rock solid, but now he's under the most pressure he's been under with Kevin Santana, and he's finally done it. He's finally made a mistake, and now he's got to get back on offense here. He's made the move on Kevin Santana before. He's been able to do it multiple times, actually, but that was the first time we've seen him make a mistake. We also saw him make a little mistake down the hill a little bit earlier. This could be a Caboese flustered for the first time.
Meanwhile, looking back at the 90, Owen McLaughlin has moved up from 11th now to 5th. Still has yet to make a pit stop. So far, so solid for the 90 machine tonight. McLaughlin had a solid points night, 25 points scored last time out for Blow Dreaded Racing. In fact, he leads his team in that point category.
And McLaughlin's always a solid driver. He's always bringing it to the finish. That's something I always notice with him. He won a race or two, I believe, last season in these IRO4s when we were unbroadcasted, and I have to imagine those were both because he just brought it to the end of the race, kept it clean, kept it out of trouble, and he's doing exactly the same thing here at a track where that's really rewarded. He does have Zachary Yurt all over him, though. Samuel Ma a little bit further ahead is kind of pulling away, but rock solid for Owen McLaughlin.
Up at the front, coming to 5 laps to go in this race on the board. It's an amount of time on the clock in of itself. Santana holds on for now, up at the point. Will we see a peel off this time? Santana taking the defensive line. Now they take the pit line. Can they take it cleanly? Akaboeasy trying to send it a little bit deeper, nearly to the gearbox as they make the yellow cone.
That's two drivers that have practiced their pit entry. It's another very, very tricky one. We've basically only gone to tracks so far this season where the pit entry is very, very difficult. Laguna Seca's caught out the best in the world. Road Atlanta has caught out people before, and of course, you see people getting caught out by the Bathurst pit entry all the time. They're basically side by side as they both enter their pit boxes here. It should be equal amounts of fuel here. No tire changes as usual. It's going to be a race off pit road. Akaboeasy a little bit faster on the acceleration, but not able to beat Santana out while he swerves over to the lane.
Only David Cristelli in front of them, so they battle for second on track. How big is that advantage? Well, they just came out with Owen McLaughlin, who is yet to pit. Samuel Ma, Zachary Zert just came in with 5-second pit stops for them. Here comes Akaboeasy, going to the right side, heading through Griffin's Bend. Give him back the spot as Santana gives him the space.
Surprised that Kevin let him go that easy, but there are still 4 laps to go in the race. Doesn't seem like a lot, but at a lap that's over 2 minutes long, that's still a lot of racing to go. Again, it took him a couple laps to recover last time Akaboeasy got by him. It took him a little while to catch back up, and then even when he did, he only got the lead back because Akaboeasy threw it off the road in turn 1. So he's got to make sure he can get closer here. He's got to make sure he doesn't get distracted by Owen McLaughlin behind him. His one job is looking forward here, and we need 4 more of those qualifying laps to put him ahead of Akaboeasy on the grid in the first place.
It's a little bit of the curve just as you finish that statement, but still able to hold on for now. Not too much traffic to deal with outside of Thomas Coyle. The interesting thing is also going to be where David Cristelli cycles out, depending on how things fare out here to close things out, as there goes the gap a little bit more built up as a result of the speed we've seen all race long on the mountain.
That's that 8/7 of a second that we mentioned. It's too big of a gap for Santana to bring down. He's crawling forward. He makes up like a 1/10 or 2 in the draft when he's that far back, but it's just not strong enough for him to do anything. David Cristelli's in from the race lead. That'll mean Akaboeasy and Santana get to fight all on their lonesome for the lead here, and it should be a pretty safe podium for David Cristelli. He's probably been the most lonely driver tonight.
There goes McLaughlin as well for the scheduled stop. So this for the race lead. Cristelli yet to even make it to the box. These two now looking to decide who comes away with the victory here at Bathurst. Down to under 5 laps to go. Akaboeasy has nearly broken the draft already.
Yeah, full second. That's even more discouraging for Kevin Santana. He needs another mistake from Akaboeasy, I think. He's just got too much speed for Santana to keep up with him in draft range, I think. But Akaboeasy has made multiple mistakes before. Santana's not going anywhere. You want to talk about drivers who don't make mistakes often? Kevin Santana wouldn't have 12 wins in PRL open wheel competition if he made mistakes often, especially at tough tracks like this. But there's only 3-4 laps to go here. Akaboeasy's really playing with that wall up over the cutting as well. That worries me. One mistake. There's walls waiting for Akaboeasy. He hasn't hit any of them. He's been lucky that the mistakes he's made have been where there was grass on the outside. He can't make them up here.
You have a 10-second buffer, keep in mind, compared to the rest of the field. So they do have some time to play with if they elect to try and battle with each other a fair bit. Santana too strong, loses tons of time as a result of the run through Skyline of the S's.
That's going to be very, very helpful mentally for Hamilton Akaboeasy to have that little bit of an extra gap, to know that there's 1.3 seconds behind you now. That's completely out of draft range. Santana's not going to be closing at all here down either of the long straights. Akaboeasy can start thinking just running lone practice again, just trying to run perfect lap times, try to run away, make sure you minimize your mistakes, and you basically won the race already. It's just going to be a run to the end. Santana's probably not going to be able to find 0.3 per lap to catch you, but if you make a mistake, he will.
Absolutely. Already another 10th or so gained as a result. Keep in mind, technical issue potentially for the 16, hence why you see them flickering about the pylon. They are still on the track despite their internet's best efforts. Let's follow on board with Santana. You can see just how those turns are being handled.
Caboese just perfect through turn one. I really don't know what happened when he threw it off the road in turn one. I guess he just lost focus, which is easy to do when you feel like you're in control of the race. But right now, he is fully focused. Santana closing just a little bit. He had a little bit better of an exit, but he needs a lot better of an exit than that. Up through the top of, or up over the mountain, I should say. It's two halves here. You go up through the first couple of corners, fairly straightforward. Quarry bend, difficult, but it's fairly straightforward. Then the cutting, a very, very banked corner, elevation change, easy to spin on the outside there. And then the most difficult part of the track here is just high commitment all the way down the hill. It's so difficult, and Hamilton Caboese has been perfect. He's been extending it to the edges of the track. He's been over the white lines a little bit. He's been kissing the walls, but he's been getting away with it because clearly he has run a lot of laps here, and he is just on rails, basically.
Absolutely, the talent level is there in that 107 machine. Santana continuing to struggle in the very quick flicks of the corners, it seems. That's where the major difference has been. Does that come down not just to the skill, but also potentially the car and the downforce, you think?
I don't think there's any...
the comfort with the fixed setup on that downforce level?
That's always something with these IRO4s that it really depends. Kevin Santana might not be used to the springy, marshmallowy setups of this IRO4 compared to a Caboese, and it just depends on driver comfort. Sometimes the track just doesn't click for a driver. But when we were riding on board with Kevin Santana there, I'm sure to every single person who's watching right now, that looked incredible. That looked faster than anything I could do. It looked completely terrifying. It looked like he was at 100% commitment, and he is. Unfortunately, though, Hamilton Caboese has just been on a complete another plane this season. He's very, very comfortable with this specific car, with all of these iRacing fixed setups. Clearly, he has time to practice quite a bit, possibly as a side effect of his age compared to the other drivers in the field who have a little bit less time during the week. But either way, he has this thing just about mastered, and this has been the ultimate challenge for him tonight, with challenges from Santana and Kings and the rest of the field, and he's made a couple mistakes, but less than everybody else.
Absolutely. About a lap and 3/4 round now for Caboese. Santana continues to drift back. Keep in mind, Thomas Coyle has had to make a second pit stop. Being secure to make it on a one-stopper. The checker flag separation between just about every car, about 1 second for now, keeping calm. But that's been the intriguing thing. Things seem to have calmed down after the pit stops, after the bang, everyone into the wall circumstances early.
Well, I think that's exactly why they've calmed down, because we've wiped out all the people who are going to crash. We've unfortunately killed about 14 cars here in the first 14 laps of this race, and everybody else who's still on track, they've survived all race long. I'm sure there might be still a couple more mistakes in the tank as drivers start to get tired coming to the end of this race, but we've eliminated so many cars that it would be difficult to wipe out as many more. All the drivers still on track have proven to be consistent. They've proven that they're comfortable with the track here, and when you've only got one more lap to go, you're not going to make a mistake on that last lap, especially when you're running basically on your lonesome with a huge gap behind. It should be fairly straightforward coming to the finish, but he's still pushing 100%. He dipped it off in the grass there.
Maybe trying to make sure the purple lap sticks. He does have the purple lap by 0.2 of a second. As they come to the white flag this time around, 107 looks to hold on for the entire time. Just in our 2 minutes or so till another victory on the trot for Hamilton.
Three seconds to play with. You basically don't need to commit at all. You can do a 210 and still win the race, and a 210 is basically just lifting off, coming down the hill through the S's and Skyline and the Dipper and all those troublesome places where there's dastardly concrete walls on the outside. You can just afford to lift off a little bit, coast down the hill. I'm sure Santana's still going to be pushing 100% to hope that Caboese makes a mistake in front of him and open up that door again. Hamilton almost throws it into the wall on the outside, though, so I don't think he's listening to my advice at all. He still wants to go for a fastest lap again. He's still pushing all out, and he is playing with absolute millimeters to all of these concrete walls.
I mean, that's the thing, though. For some drivers, that's the difference between 3/4 tenths of a second overall lap, right? That's where every inch has to be found on speed.
See it again down the hill. This is not a low commitment lap. This is just as quick as I think every single other lap he's run so far tonight. Santana's catching a little bit, so maybe he's backed off a tiny bit coming down the hill, but still, that is just insane levels of commitment. This is what we wanted to see coming to Bathurst. We wanted to see the best drivers in the series really wringing these cars out, testing their limits, finding the limits, and we've certainly found the limits many, many times tonight, but I just love seeing these drivers on the razor's edge. This is exactly why I loved coming to this place, and maybe Bathurst isn't so scary after all. We might need to come back here in a few more seasons.
Meanwhile, Hamilton, Akboise looking to close things out. He has dominated throughout the season so far. The 107 will do it again for the third time this season. Hamilton Akboise wins in the PRL's IRO4 series, this time over Kevin Santana.
It's hard to keep repeating just absolute domination. Cristelli is going to be the loneliest driver in the world tonight, but there's still going to be a battle for fifth here with Ma and Moran coming to the line.
This gap has closed down significantly throughout the lap. Can Moran get a top 5? Ma looking to secure a +10, takes the defensive line. Moran just says, I'll take it high side. Heels him off the outside and takes the spot away from him at the stripe.
Great move by Moran there on the last lap. The outside, he made it work. Akboise made it work. It's such a difficult move to do, but we've seen two just masterful attempts at it. And Samuel Ma as well. Great finish for him. The driver from Macau, another place where you've got a street circuit that's just as terrifying as this one. So great to see Samuel bring it to the end. And a few other finishers, Precker, Hebert, Yurt, Cone. A lot of guys still bringing it home to the top 10. It's a race of survival. And like I said, if you survived, you're basically guaranteed a top 10. Unless you're Brad Winter, unfortunately.
Yes, indeed. Brad Winter still is in 11th right now, keep in mind. On the positive for him, he's up +12. Not the biggest mover. That goes to Ian Cabana and Thomas Coyle tonight. Tyler Gold rounds out all the finishers tonight. What will the 7 do? To close out the field, he cannot gain the spot, he cannot lose a spot, but he does have to finish the lap.
Give us a couple of donuts, Tyler. Give us a couple of big ones. Coming to the line. Give us some excitement.
I was honestly expecting him to take the jump.
Oh, that would have been great. A little bit of a jumpo. Oh, Tyler Gore. Not living up to the fans here, but through the final corner, he's going to bring it to the line, and I have redeemed myself with this accent, I think.
Okay then, so as that accent says goodbye, let's take a look now at how they've closed things out as all the drivers have now completed tonight's action. Hamilton Akboise finished in first tonight after starting in third. Kevin Santana started where he ended up finishing second. David Cristelli rounds out the top 3, 15 seconds adrift, while Bonklin and Andrew Moran the top 5. Then Samuel Ma, Zachary Zert, David Hebert, Bob Cohen, Corey Precker, the top 10 on the racetrack tonight. Then Brad Winter, Ian Cabana, Tyler Gore, Thomas Coyle, and Sean Duhamel rounded out the finishers tonight. Just 15 out of 27 take the checker flag here tonight. Kevin Bergquist finished 6 laps down in 16th, Guillaume Pavan in 17th, Michael Koenga and Michael Blaze, the Michaels 18th and 19th. Go Philippe Magna in 20th. Matt Brunowski in 21st. Dave Peterson, Evan Puckett, Ryan Keynes, Silas Bruning, Bruce Bridges, and Austin Harris round out the finishing order. Keep in mind, Austin Harris started from the pit lane and made it a half lap. That brings us over to victory lane, where Hamilton Akboise, the Ulster, again will pick up a victory. The Privateer has a third victory on the trot. You've won 3 straight. How do you feel about this one?
That was an amazing race. That was definitely the one I had to work the hardest for. I mean, the battles in the first few laps were amazing, and then trying to get past Santana, that was just a really, really fun race overall.
How difficult was it to try and minimize mistakes? Because at one point, you nearly bended into the wall.
It's difficult, and I'm surprised that the mistake came at turn 1 instead of on the hill, but I'm lucky because of that. But yeah, amazing race, and it's just, I mean, if you stay out of the wall, you're gonna be in a good spot in the first place. But yeah.
So now, as you continue to build upon this advantage, how difficult do you think it will be to maintain things the way they are? Because 3 wins is difficult to build upon, of course.
I'm hoping to try and still improve every race, try and get better, but just surprised by some of the people that haven't actually been here. I think Conqueror's out of town. So yeah, just try to maintain things.
Yes, indeed. He's at a go-kart event, actually, in Cincinnati, I believe the city is. With that, thank you very much for the time. Congratulations on your 3rd straight victory, Hamilton.
Thanks.
Then Akabuizi starting things off strong on the night again, with the iRoll 4 side of the card with a victory here in this one. Kevin Santana came away in 2nd tonight. Remember, he was tied in the 2nd spot in the point standings entering the evening. Kevin, building upon the success from this campaign, a 2nd place tonight. Talk us through the battle for the race lead.
He passed me. He was faster. I've not much else to say.
What could he have done differently, you think, to be able to keep up and battle with him?
I started making a few stupid mistakes there at the end.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Kevin.
Thank you.
Kevin Santana, very quick to the point. Very quick indeed in this one. We mentioned some of the adventures some of the competitors took tonight. Corey Precker was amongst those involved in the early incidents, had 32 seconds of damage. Joey Tebben now taking the chance to speak with him. Let's see what accent he uses. Joey.
Well, Corey Precker, I might switch accents midway through this interview, but talk us through the chaos at Bathurst, and we'll see what happened. What happened? You came home in the top 10, and it seemed like a pretty crazy journey.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a disappointing top 10. I think Michael Blaze just made a mistake right in front of me going through the, what is that called? The, whatever that kind of the downhill, well, a lot of it's a downhill section, but he kind of hit the wall and gave me damage at a 30-second pit stop, which is kind of disappointing because I had like a 32.5 second pit stop, and it caused me to basically be down in 10th place instead of fighting for 4th. So, but no, this is a good learning that I can be competitive in this league from here.
All right, I got a friend who wants to ask you a question. Let me bring him in here. Preco, what do you think of Mount Panorama? We came to Australia. Everyone was pretty scared of this track. What did you think about it?
I wasn't scared. I actually did it. I barely had any practice this week because I've got my COVID booster on Monday, and it's just been not treating me well the last 2 days. And I was even questionable for this race, but I woke up this morning and I felt physically fine, and yeah, but no, Bathurst, it's a fun track. I got second in the 12-hour split earlier in February, so I love this track. It's fun.
All right, well, hopefully we come back here. I personally endorse that because it gives me more chances to make stupid Australian jokes. But congratulations on your survival tonight, and we wish you good luck next week.
Thank you. Hopefully I survive next week.
It was Corey Precker, old Preco. Justo, what's next week?
Well, next week we go to Brazil, to Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. October the 13th, that'll be taking place at 8:40 p.m. Approximate start time for the green lights to go out. For that one, amongst a stretch of Grand Prix style facilities on the docket. for the IR04s to battle at. But of course, those who do not know, this series has a second part of the card. It's time to look at how the Formula 3s drive tonight. The Laura F3s have made their way to Sonoma Raceway. For tonight's action powered by VCO Esports, we welcome you into the second half of tonight's coverage and open wheel racing action. Once again, Justin Prince, Joey Devon, as we get ready for tonight's action. Plenty to discuss when it comes to these drivers. We're at the Sonoma layout from IndyCar Adventures from 2012 to 2018, meaning it's going to be a little bit different compared to what you may see for, say, a stock car.
Yeah, this is the layout with, it's a really weird hairpin. You go through the drag strips. You keep going straight after the carousel. Then you go through a weird little part of the chicane. Then you take alternate S's. You go to, frankly, the worst chicane on the face of the earth. And then you go to a hairpin that's only there for IndyCar. It's a weird layout of Sonoma. I'm not personally a fan of it, but I know that this is a PRL F3 series that can put on a good race just about anywhere. I don't have good memories of Sonoma, but I think this will be a good race either way, and it's another track that punishes mistakes. There is no asphalt runoff just about anywhere. There is ossified dirt, or that's not the word I was trying to use, but it's dirt, it's dry dirt, it's grass, there's wall, there's no runoff, there's always punishment for mistakes.
It's such an intriguing course, absolutely. Keep in mind you have Circuit Park Sanford that also has plenty of runoff space that is grass to deal with next time out as well. March your way through the schedule to December. But when it comes to the standing side, keep in mind Andrew Waring, he's been on the warpath to success so far. 2 victories on the campaign, 2 poles, 1 fastest lap, but he does have a former champion Alex Fournier keeping up with ASR Esports. You have Ozzie Milwane, Raymond Day, and Takeshi Kita being very sneaky inside the top 5 so far.
As he always is, and Andrew Waring has been wearing everybody else out, but I'm gonna do what I did in the last race. I'm gonna comment on qualifying before it's over. Andrew Waring is in 13th. He's not on his usual pole, but just like Hamilton and Capoeasy in the previous race tonight, I would not be surprised to see that change later on in the session. But at least now, get your hopes up. We might just have some changes at the top.
Keep in mind, this championship is always evolving from season to season. It just so happens because of Waring up at the top of that pylon, Evolve Sim Sport Squad is at the top of the team standings entering tonight, ripping away that distinction from ASR Esports. Then you have Ninja Trader Esports. They have had a bit of a rocky start. Raymond Day, of course, part of that team, but also remember, they have plenty of experience when it comes to some of their former pro competitors on that squad. They have slipped back. Britannia iSports, Atomic Racing, so far the top 5. Some good signs to see Atomic Racing keeping things clean to start off. Most of those points, though, are from Takeshi.
Yeah, Steven Ritters hasn't had the greatest time of things. He got taken out at Fuji in week 1. He had a spin on lap 1 at Okayama in week 2. But we've left Japan. Maybe it was cursed for Ritters, just as it was good luck for Andrew Waring at the front of the field. To see if he can change his luck as well tonight. And James Carter is back. So they've got all 3 of their drivers at Atomic Racing back in the field tonight. So if one of them is eliminated, they've got another driver to fall back on. They got the whole 3-car squad, and only the top 2 cars can score points for the team's championship here.
Early in qualifying, Michael Kofre, who hits the wall several times over, is on the pole for now with the 121.7. James Miller is in second, then Kevin San Diego, Ozzie Milwane, Alex Fournier, top 5. Those drivers separated by 0.3 of a second. They have about 8 minutes and change to work with still. So take a look at San Diego trying to work his way to another interesting part of this layout. There's a chicane in the S's here.
If I didn't make my position clear enough in the pre-race, that is the worst chicane in the world. I cannot stand it. I wish we were running the normal Sonoma, but you gotta live with the things that are given to you. Kevin San Diego set up a better lap there. He ditched that lap after the chicane, took a wider line through that IndyCar hairpin, set himself up for a big run through the front straight. Not gonna give him that much help because it's a very, very short and curved straight, but in this league, every single hundredth of a second, every single tenth matters. and San Diego's just trying to find every little bit that he can as he goes down into the carousel here.
And his personal best of 121.9 so far. We've seen good speed from San Diego in qualifying. Throughout the campaign, he is 6th in the standings. For reference, trouble spot, of course, has been for some keeping things clean. Last time out, Michael Cofre, for reference, had a DNF. And that sent him back in the points, having his one drop to factor in 11th in the standings. In fact, all the Cofres looking to keep it clean tonight.
Still watching Kevin San Diego through the S's. He's going to have a little bit better of a run through the chicane this time, but it is so tough to nail. It's so tight. You would think it would be a good passing zone, actually, but it really isn't. And then there's a short little run. You can definitely make moves if somebody makes a mistake into this hairpin here, but got to do it again. Kevin San Diego was on pole at Suzuka earlier this week. He's been driving around the world. He was in Suzuka, now he's in Sonoma. Where in the world is Kevin San Diego? He's still 4th. He needs another 1,000th to be 3rd.
Now, he did gain some time. He's now turning his car into a driftmobile to be able to start off his next lap. Fournier also just restarted a lap. Here's Justin Negretti, who is in 7th position. 66, also someone you can keep an eye on for fast speed for ASR as he enters that very tough chicane. I can see somebody just trying to send it up the inside there tonight.
Yeah, that'll definitely happen. Probably on lap 1 if I had to predict, but it's a place where it's tough to pass. You've got to take your opportunities when they come to you, rather, and yeah, somebody's going to be sending it at an odd place here. Negretti to the line. He's not going to improve either. About 8/10ths down on that lap. A little bit of a sloppy lap, but he looks like he's actually preparing a little bit more for this lap, and that looks far better through turn 1. A late turn in there, but looks strong, at least one corner in. A lot of them to go, though.
Keep in mind with this layout, you have the standard layout for Sonoma until about here. This is where the carousel comes in. Remember, stock car racing took its turn back to this layout after originally starting off in the 80s and 90s. This layout, of course, has the different straightaway configuration you talked about with the drag strip fully. There is no kink to the left like in some series.
Yeah, last season we actually would have gone over to the left there. You actually saw Negretti looking over there. He might still be thinking we're in last season, but no, you go straight to the hairpin, and then it's basically a 180-degree turn. You don't actually go over to the left side there where you might go in some other layouts of this track. So it's fairly straightforward. Then you take the alternate S's up here, approach that chicane, hard on the brakes. You can actually cut the dirt in the inside a little bit on both of those curbs, but you've got to be careful doing that because it'll unsettle the car a little bit. You'll get a little bit jumpy and you won't get the exit that you need. And then the final corner, it's a slow hairpin, but it is a place where you can make a move. You want to use as much of the exit asphalt on the outside. It's free real estate. There's not a lot of that in the Bay Area, so you got to use it when you can find it.
122.7 that time. His best is in the 122.3, so no improvement. Still in the 8th position. There are still 3 drivers yet to set times in this session. Marc-Andre LaRoche, Nikos Aniakis, and Nin are still yet to set times. Michael Cofre, meanwhile, and if we're flat to warm things up, here is the 6th machine. We haven't seen too much towards the top of the board, per se, for the 6th. Looking to change the tides tonight, though.
Olaire and Cofre on the front row, that would be a very, very interesting dynamic because they were the two that kind of got into each other, if I remember correctly, at Okayama last week. Got into a little bit of argy-bargy down at the hairpin. Molaire kind of drove into the back of him, and both of them were forced into a recovery drive. That might have actually been Sebastian Cofre, if I remember correctly. So forgive me if I've mixed up the 2 Wave Italy teammates there. But
there's
either
3
way,
of them.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them. But Molaire has been strong. He's just had a little bit of trouble in the first 2 weeks of the season, but he's on the front row here. It's tracking to be a pretty good lap to the line. Does he have any improvement? He doesn't still, critically, about 3/10ths down. This is the part of qualifying where it's so hard to find extra tenths. Everybody's run the best laps of their lives, and somehow you've got to get even better than that.
Here is Waring, by the way, in 3rd position. A question coming in from a fellow competitor, or more so a statement. Let's see if Joey lasts longer in the booth than he did on circuit tonight. Thoughts?
Well, that was troublemaker Nick McLaughlin here. Get out of the chat. Let's ban that guy. But I think I've already lasted longer in the booth than I did on circuit, because last season at Sonoma, I had a terrible qualifying, as was typical for me in the first 8 rounds of this season last season. So I was starting at the back of the field. I was starting behind Brett Thurman. Brett stalled on the grid for whatever reason. I couldn't avoid him, and I literally got taken out before the start-finish line. So I think I was on track for a negative amount of time. So just by being in the booth at all tonight, I think I've beaten.
I think that's a technicality, though, to have it as a negative bit of time. Technically, you need to make it negative 300 feet off the green.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get back in a car to make up for that. So, Andrew Waring, you want to give me that Evolve Sim Sports setup? I'll hop in. Give me 2 minutes to hop in the session.
Okay. I have a feeling that you're actually going to try that. You have 2 minutes to try that.
I wish I could, but my wheel's off to the side here.
Alex Fournier is in 6th position. And I remember in the past how Alex Fournier at Sonoma has been very quick in these types of tracks. I think Fournier, though, expects a little bit more than a 122 flat, Joey.
He definitely does, but it's been hard to find more lap time. We saw Waring found a little bit. He was able to hop about 10 spots. San Diego found some lap time. He found about 2/10, but other than that, it has been very, very difficult to improve late in the session. Fournier's got a little bit of traffic in front of him. I don't think he'll catch that traffic. There's just enough of a gap that he doesn't need to worry about it, but through the S's, it's flat out, especially when you're on a high downforce setup like you want at Sonoma. These ASR esports drivers always have strong setups here. Through the chicanes, very, very jumpy. A little bit harder of a suspension potentially for Alex Fournier than some of his competitors, but through the final corner, this is what it's all about. It's tracking well. He cuts the track a little bit, takes all the asphalt in the exit. Like I said, it looks like a good time. Let's see if he can improve.
The answer is a 121.9. He does improve. Gets himself 6th position still. No change in the slot, still behind Kevin San Diego, but a change at the top of the pylon. Waring has jumped up to a 121.6 with 30 seconds to work with. The Evolve SimSport machine has just laid the gauntlet out.
Looked like tonight might be the night that things start to change. We might get a Capuisi off of his pedestal. We might get Waring off of his pedestal, but it has proven much more difficult than initially thought. A pair of tough tracks tonight, but Waring and Capuisi earlier both really showing their prowess here. Waring still got to stick on the track for 40 more minutes. He's got to keep Coffray and Molaire and his teammate Ozzy Milwane and a whole pack of hungry drivers behind him, but he is not frightened by Sonoma. It's a track that's difficult to pass. He has done the perfect thing by putting himself on pole here, and that is going to be very scary for any drivers who are trying to catch up to him and make sure he doesn't run away with his championship.
Meanwhile, Kevin San Diego spins it out in the final chicane, so his qualifying session comes to a close. He also joins Rob Campbell in the case of the spinnies. The others who can complete laps: Fournier, El Placio, Manuel Vargas. Aboard this 194, 122.6 last time. We'll see if Julio takes the chance to try and record the lap without getting an invalidated mark.
A little bit wide to the first of the S's there. It's still full throttle through there, so you're not going to lose that much momentum, but you will lose a little if you just get the rhythm barely wrong like that. Hops the curbs, doesn't hop them too much. Everybody really has that chicane figured out. It's a place that I could never really figure out. And through the final corner, again, it's exactly the line that we're seeing everybody run. No, it's not. He proved me wrong at the end there. He's going to take the very, very awkward pit lane, because you still run the full pit lane here, even with that little appendix of a hairpin. You're still going all the way around to the end of the track to go through the pit lane.
That rounds things out for the drivers taking times, Joey. Expectations now entering tonight in this race for the F3s.
I'm going to say that I hope that it's not Andrew Waring driving off into the sunset. I hope we get a real good battle. Nothing against Andrew Waring. He's easily been the best driver this season, but I hope we get a great battle here. I hope we get Coffray. I hope we get Molaire. I hope we get San Diego, Milwane. I hope we get a great battle here tonight, and hopefully in 40 minutes time, it might be a winner that I didn't even mention there. Could be anybody.
With that, the drivers have completed their qualifying session, 30 minutes to work with. In that session, Andrew Waring able to set the personal best out of them all, a 121.6. Michael Coffray, James Belair, Ozzy Milway, your top four, with Kevin San Diego. Where is he? Well, he's in fifth. Alex Fortier in sixth position. Round out that first half dozen. Nick Horvath starts in seventh, Justin Andretti in eighth, Matthew Miles in ninth. Jake Potts looks to try in Bainson Potts from the 10th position. Leo Placio and Kashi Kita, the top 12. Nicholas Pergoleta will start at 13th, Raymond Day in 14th. John Quinn, Rob Campbell, Manuel Vargas, Brett Thurman, the top 18 positions. Stephen Ritters, Ryan Miles, Olivier Legnol, along with Tyler Pierre Richards, Richard Swendels, and Joey Haynes looks to try and see if a Joey can move forward from 24th. Lucio Vargas in 25th, James Carter, the last qualifying spot, 26th. Last drivers not to set times. Marc-Antoine LaRoche, along with Nico's Ideas, along with Goodman, the 29 drivers. Drivers making their way to the starting grid for tonight. Final couple moments. What final sayings, Joey, before we get rolling?
Justin spitting daggers tonight, saying if a Joey can make it up further than 24th. I do wish Joey Haynes advances further than I did last week, because I would like him to make it past the start-finish line. Hopefully nobody's stalled. Hopefully everybody's got all their equipment in check tonight. And we got 29 cars in the grid at Sonoma. It's a big field. It's going to be crazy, but here we go.
All the drivers have gridded. It's time to go racing from Sonoma. Are you ready? We hope so. The green flag waves were underway from California. Andrew Waring with a clean launch. Michael Coffray tries to keep close, side by side for 4-5 on back. San Diego gets single file with clean launch up the hillside for the first time tonight.
Nobody stalled. Nobody stalled back the grid. Everybody is off. All 28 cars actually on the grid have made it through almost contact, though, with Ozzy Milway and James Molaire under brake into the carousel for the first time.
Milway avoids damage. Here comes San Diego to take fourth position. So San Diego takes advantage. Check up. One driver has spun to the very back, the old 7. Rest of the field has kept it clean, though. 26 drivers keeping wing to wing to make their way to the end of the drag strip and nearly slam into each other for good measure.
Differences in braking zones or differences in braking distances, really show themselves in this hairpin. But well done, everybody. San Diego kept it out of the back of Molaire. Everybody else has made it through. Looks like side by side with Takeshi Kita and Julio Palacio through the S's. Especially difficult on lap 1. Barbara Galata's getting blocked into the sand. Oh, and Steven Ritters gets net coded. That was a hellish level of net code, and Steven Ritters' luck. Could it get any worse?
Steven Ritters continues to carry over the luck from last season. Meanwhile, they make their way through the final corners for the first time, and our crash has just taken place in the teens. LaRoche and company have just piled up. James Carter, Richard Swendels, also in that vicinity. Lucio Vargas having to get rolling. Meanwhile, Waring has checked out by more than a second to end the first lap and a quarter.
Coffray wasn't really fighting with Molaire on lap 1, but he also just wasn't as quick as Waring on the jump here, and every time this has happened in the previous 2 weeks, Waring has been untouchable, but we'll see if Coffray can find a little bit more pace here to stick with Waring, maybe even jump him in the pit cycle. He was on pole for the longest time in qualifying before Waring finally found that lap, so we know Coffray has the pace to stick with Waring, but it's going to be even tougher to make a move. Speaking of making a move, there's Ozzy Milway peeking to the inside of Kevin San Diego. Forces San Diego to lock up a little bit, go the long way around. There's more trouble. I think that's Nick Horvath.
Horvath has gone around indeed. Whoa. Campbell also sliding down the pylon. Milway, close call with San Diego yet again. They scrap it out still for 4. San Diego deeper on the brakes, tries to get a little bit of distance. Fournier keeps up in the draft as the near hitch to the left for Milway.
I think we're wiping out more drivers on lap 1 here than we did at Bathurst. Who predicted that coming into tonight? It's been craziness down at the hairpin. Of course, Ritters was the first driver at the chicane. Sonadakis spun on lap 1, and then Palacio took a few drivers with him at the hairpin a little bit earlier. I think he might have been a single car accident, though. I think Julio Palacio might have avoided taking anybody else with him, so that's good at least.
Still keeping an eye on the first battlings on the track, still 4th position. The clouds settling in, 28 laps to work with in this race. Keep in mind, 40 minutes up on the clock. Pit stops expected when it comes to tonight as well. So we'll have to see how drivers play out that strategy. They go for leapfrogging each other. Keep in mind, these drivers 1 second slower than Kofre and Miller last time.
Milwain seems to be a little bit faster earlier on in the stint, and that's understandable. He's Andrew Waring's Evolve Sim Sports teammate. So similar setups, of course. Makes sense that he might have a little bit more for Kevin Sandiego here, but he hasn't been able to make the move. I thought he had made it completely cleanly into the hairpin a lap ago, but Sandiego did a great job of fighting back. And then there's a pair of ASR Esports teammates right behind just trying to chase him down. And it's basically a second pack of its own, as Kofre's been able to stick with Waring, hasn't been able to go for any moves. Let's take a look at everything that happened on lap 1. And Steven Ritters, I'm sure, is just fuming right now because look at that. There's like a quarter of a car through there.
He ends up getting sent right to the tires, yeah.
Just terrible netcode, unfortunately. Bad luck again strikes. It always comes in waves. Whenever you have bad luck, it seems to come and come and come and repeat itself. This is what happened down to the hairpin. Swindells just got kind of punted there by, I believe that was Marc-Andre LaRouche. James Carter made it through. Lucio Vargas didn't. And then Nick Horvath, I think, got punted coming into the hairpin.
Right there. That TNT promo working very good for that car.
And Palacio, this is a weird one. He made it through, and then, he gets the 24 of, who is
Miles.
The 24? Matthew Miles wiped out 2 cars in 2 corners.
I don't think the second one's intentional, though, obviously, but Miles now has a few incident points. Here's Swindells yet again adrift to the dirt, and that's how you have some adventures build up at Sonoma, and your top 2 check out for now. Meanwhile, first major train, led by Sandiego, still holding on for the time being, trying to find a way to get up to the 6th.
Just classic Sonoma racing. You're just waiting for the guy in front of you to make a mistake. It's difficult to make a move, but they've got James Miller in front of them now, who's completely lost touch with Kofre. He must have just made one mistake somewhere, and it just built up to be a 2-second mistake. So San Diego's going to try and use him a little bit, maybe put him between himself and Milwain to be a little bit of a buffer. That's going to be tougher done than said here, because Milwain is still putting the pressure on San Diego every single corner of every single lap. He just needs to nail the exit of the carousel. That's going to be his best chance down at the hairpin.
Keep an eye and see if any slip-ups happen in the midst of this. Still falling on board with Milwain. See just how quick San Diego is able to get it on the power with a little bit of whiff of clean space for the time being to work with as they drop back to 1 second, heading to the braking zone with smoke puffs. By the way, 2 drivers have also just gotten into an incident. Richard Swindells and James Carter.
Poor old James Carter. He avoided all the calamity on lap 1. He made it through all of it, and we'll have to see how he ended up finally getting collected. Was it by himself? Was it with Richard Swindells? I hope he'll be back out on track, because James Carter has his Zoom set up for a very good cause. So he'll have to get back out on track so we can give him a shout out later.
I don't think that car will come back on the track. I think we'll get a chance to see why. So,
is it worse than I thought?
He no longer has a front wing, front left front chassis, right front tire, or left side pod.
That's not ideal.
Still following along with Milway. See how this is why James Carter and his night ends.
Yeah, Richard Swindells had that done to him earlier, and unfortunately he was the one doing it to James Carter now. That car has 2 wheels now, fittingly, like a motorcycle, because if we do see James Carter later on in this race, he is shouting out the National MS Society. He's doing a bike MS event later on this week. He's actually a marshal for it, raising money for multiple sclerosis, which is always a good cause. And I'm going to give James a shout out either way. Bad luck in this race, but James always doing good stuff for a good cause.
Still taking a look at some of the battles. Milway still keeping the pressure up on San Diego. And it seems more like a rhythm race breaking out at this point. Something's happened to the leader. Waring has lost his full gap and has lost the lead. What happened to Waring? His gap was about 2 seconds.
He was in complete control, and I'm just trying to think, where could a mistake like that bring that gap completely down? Well, we've got your answer. Down into the chicane. Did he just lock it up? Take a little bit too much speed? Yes, he did. Just a little bit too much speed into the chicane. Braked a little bit too late. Didn't even lock it up. Just bailed. Probably had to serve a slowdown for cutting the chicane, and that's how Michael Coffray gets the lead back. Now we have to see, can Coffray hang on? How is he on defense? Can he keep Waring back for 21 more laps?
Especially knowing how fast that 33 was in clean air. Already trying a dive bomb formation, heading to the carousel for a moment. Separation about 0.3 of a second. The gap between them and the 6, about 2 seconds now. You can just see how much more comfortable the 33 is in the braking right now.
If I know anything about Michael Coffray, though, I know he's going to be very, very aggressive on defense here, and at a place where it's difficult to pass, at a place where Andrew's teammate Ozzie Milwain hasn't been able to make a move on San Diego since the beginning of this race, it's going to be a tougher job for Andrew Waring than I think he's had all season. He and Coffray had a great battle at Fuji 2 weeks ago, but that was resolved within about 3 or 4 laps, and then he drove off into the distance. But this is going to be a whole different ball game, and Coffray, he really wants that win here, and I don't think he's going to make that car very narrow for Andrew Waring, to say the least.
DNF just popped up, if you may have noticed, the pylon from the top 12. The 94 is now done for the day. Traffic starting to potentially play a factor, though, because of some of that attrition. Swindells is in front of the leaders. See if that factors in with the blue flags. Coffray, the pressure from Waring.
I think Raymond Day's made a mistake as well. Might have collected Rob Campbell in the process. 8 laps into this race, and it's all kicking off. Barbara Galata as well, who you just mentioned, had a worse qualifying than the rest of his season, and it's gone downhill even more. But we're wiping out drivers. Let's see what happened to Raymond Day at turn 1.
Yeah, this collected a couple different drivers just a second or 10 ago. Looks fine for now, right? Watch this. Wrong place, wrong time, right?
Just synchronized mistake making, and those are the worst ones. You spin, you're like, hey, I got away with it, and then suddenly there's another driver flying into the side of you, and you're like, maybe I should have just driven on track and taken somebody out, because it would have been the same scenario either way. But that's just bad luck for both of those guys. Same mistake, and unfortunately they both met in the middle. Looks like Rob Campbell's still out on track, so he must not have terrible damage, but well, as I say that, he brings it down pit lane. So him and Day, add him to the used car lot. It's starting to build up a little bit.
Oh, meanwhile, Richard Swindells takes the blue flag by bidding the car. You gotta love when lap traffic gives you all the space in the world. Coffray still holds on for now with Waring, so at least the lap traffic disappeared. Not in the advantage for Swindells.
That's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it. Just erase yourself from existence by throwing it off the road. Michael Coffray, I've just noticed, coming down to the carousel every single lap. This must be a difference in setup between him and Waring, but he's been basically locking it up, and he's also gonna back out here and he's gonna hit Waring.
Tire-to-tire contact. Waring gets squeezed back, trying to fight back. He doesn't back out of it. Coffray holds on to the race lead. That was a little bit naughty, to say the very least. That could have been very suboptimal for a moment or 10.
That was just really weird. Coffray, it almost looked like he was letting Waring by into the hairpin, but no, I think he just braked way earlier, and they both met in the middle, under braking in the middle portion of the hairpin. They're lucky they got away with that. They're lucky nobody got suspension damage or got a wheel torn off, but that was a very, very weird incident, and Andrew Waring's thinking about the championship right now. He might be thinking, you know, I'm happy to sit back here for a little bit. I'm going to stick with Coffray, but maybe I'll make my move a little bit later instead of getting aggressive early and having him take me out.
Keep in mind, they have lit 2 seconds on fire. The gap between first and third is down to 1.5 seconds. Waring still keeping the pressure up, looking like he might try another set maybe to turn 7.
He might just prove me wrong. He might just want to get by Kofre to get the car in front of him away, and he won't have to worry about him sending it into the hairpin if he does that. Let's see if the same thing happens again. Is Kofre going to like lift off here early, brake very early? He is again. Kofre is just extremely early on the brakes into the hairpin. Waring gets the driver on the outside and they hit each other again.
This time, Waring keeps his foot in it and takes the race lead. How does Kofre respond to that? Molaire now within the draft of the top 2 as a result. Kofre's response, he tries to late brake it, nearly spun himself trying to keep up.
It's just so strange that Kofre is that much earlier on the brakes into the hairpin than Waring. I don't know if he's backed it off a little bit because he's on the suboptimal line. He's trying to make sure he doesn't spin under heavy braking into the hairpin, but it is bizarre, and he's not going to be able to keep with Andrew Waring now. I think he's just going to have to hope that there's another mistake that got Kofre the lead in the first place there.
Already 8/10 picked up by Waring as a result, and now how does Molaire equate into this? The 6 is now one of the quicker cars on the racetrack and catching up to Kofre and fast.
And he's seen the contact ahead of him a couple times, so he's probably hoping, maybe those 2 guys in front of me have a little bit of front wing damage from those couple of contacts. They don't, but Molaire is probably doing a little bit of wishful thinking right now. Through the carousel, Molaire is going to be too far back. He's got about 6/10 to catch up to Kofre, but this could be a very, very aggressive battle for second soon. Let's see Kofre back on the optimal line to the hairpin. He was back to his old ways, being late in the brakes that time. So I don't know if he was just being extra conservative on the suboptimal line on the inside to not spin the car, but he lost the lead either way doing that.
As a result, Waring nearly a full second now up, make it the full second. Again, Waring quicker through the chicane. And now Molaire holding on to the rear wing just about. Coming up towards 17 to go, more tire smoke picked up off the right front tire. Molaire within 4 car lengths.
Looked like Molaire was about to straight line it into the wall through the final corner. Good thing he picked up the wheel late enough to steer out of that, but that scared me for a second as we cut away from that. But he is all over the back of Kofre. It's now half a second. If he can stick with him down through the carousel, we know Kofre has kind of been troubled under braking into the hairpin when he's under attack from another driver. So I think Molaire has been studying what's been going on ahead of him, and he's hoping that he can get close enough to Kofre to actually make that move, because if he can be later on the brakes into the hairpin, if he can figure out how to do that without spinning the car and having the F3 do the pendulum around thing that it likes to do so much, that could be a pretty easy move with Kofre.
On board with the 6, deep on the brakes. Still not able to fully close up as a result of some of the shuffling. Patience game may have to start coming to play. Again, this is the Knox E-Motorsports machine you're on board with in 3rd position.
If he has the pace to catch if he has the pace to catch Waring, rather, he can't afford to be patient, but I don't know. Does he have the pace to catch Waring? That's a question that he's going to have to ask himself. And that's a question that we're going to have to realize here if he does get by Kofre. Through the hairpin, Kofre locks it up again a little bit, and Molaire checks up in return and has to back off a little bit more. So he's running exactly the same lap times as Kofre, basically, which is probably going to be slightly infuriating because he wants to get closer, but he's just following Kofre in every single corner of this track to exactly the same speed.
We'll say Waring definitely wearing them out on the pylon, maybe 3/10 picked up last time by in the clean space. And just showing how clean space can be a factor in this one. Taking a look at the next group, Kevin San Diego, Ozzie Milway. Together, of note at the other end of the circuit, Ryan Miles has just crashed himself.
Trying to see if it was a spin or a crash. It looks like he's recovering, but up at turn 1, that's exactly what happened earlier with Campbell and Raymond Day. He was able to save it, but he was parked broadside across the track and had to wait a couple minutes to rejoin. It's unfortunately been a bad day to be surnamed Miles, because Matthew Miles and Ryan Miles have both got themselves in a little bit of trouble tonight, but there are, in fact, many miles left to go in this race, and they're both still out on the track with very little damage, so they both still got a lot of time to recover.
Correct me if I'm wrong, are they related? Because they are both West Region drivers.
And they are both teammates, so
Yes,
all context clues would suggest, but I know we have some Miles fans in the chat right now, so hopefully they can answer that for us.
Well, 15 laps to go. Coming up to halfway this time by around this 2.22 mile facility. Give credit so far, though, to one driver I've noticed on the pylon who's moved up plenty of spots. I doubted the name Joey, for it to be a bit playful, but Joey Haynes is up to 11th.
The curse is broken. The Joey curse at Sonoma is broken. Is it a curse if it's only one race? I don't know, but I'm going to call it that either way. I've been very, very happy to see Joey Haynes back in the F3 series this season. He won a couple races here a couple seasons ago in this series, took on the GT3s for half a season last season and did a great job, and now he's back where he belongs. I'm sure a disappointing qualifying for him, of course, in 24th, but he's driving his way forward. He's having a great day, and see if he can chase down old Takeshi and fight for 10th.
Meanwhile, in the battle with the pink car, with the battle with the red car, take a look as Ryan Miles, Tyler Pierre Richards have swapped positions. It can confirm Miles are brothers, source being the father. They see Ryan Miles run off and away from the 301.
I'm just curious what the father's real name is, because we know the Monkey Butt Rides team from the GT4 series where Matthew Miles races for that team, and of course the Miles father goes under the name Monkey Butt here in the YouTube chat, so I'm always happy to see that, and I'm just going to call him that for the rest of the time, no matter what his name is.
Meanwhile,
oh no, we
speak
cursed
of a
him.
Miles, bye-bye. Nearly onto the racetrack into a car, and there goes the top 10 for Matthew Miles. Joey Haynes up to 10th.
It's the curse of mentioning familial feel-good stories here. It always seems to end in disaster, unfortunately. But Matthew Miles, he's got ground to make up. He's only about 2 seconds back of Joey Haynes, so he should be able to recover there, I think. But he's got more progress than he would like to make up. And there's also been a spin in front of Ryan Miles, which didn't collect him. I did not see who that was. It was Olivier Legault, the Quebec Force driver. Add him to the list. We're past halfway in the race, and it seems like more than half of the field has run into trouble.
The mid-pack is having some adventurous moments, though. John Quinn now battling with Nick Horvath. This is currently for the 12th position. Miles is also up the road to join the fray. Meanwhile, pit stop time is underway, a scheduled stop for the 6th.
Past halfway, so this is the time when things start to kick off. You usually see drivers in the lead of the race. In the top 10, usually they just try to extend it as long as possible because there's no reason to come in early, really. You'll end up in traffic. You're not putting tires on in this series because the race is too short. You're just putting fuel in the car. But Molaire and Potts both think they're getting held up, and they think that the best thing to do is to come down the pits here, find a gap on track. Molaire is going to find a gap in between Tyler Pierre Richards and Julio Palacio, so he's in luck. I think Jake Potts isn't going to be quite so lucky, though, because he's come out about a second behind Marc-Andre LaRouche, and actually it's a second behind Olivier Legault, so he's got 2 cars of traffic in front of him. But James Molaire, it's worked out for him. He's found a gap.
5 seconds apiece on the scheduled stops for them. Horvath still holding on to position, though. They've lost touch just about to Matthew Miles, though. The battle is now for 9th, 10th, and 11th position. There is a bit of traffic to deal with in this midst. Lucio Vargas is currently the stopgap between them and Joey Haynes.
Waring's hoping he doesn't catch Lucio at an awkward part of the track. This is certainly an awkward part of the track to reach lap traffic. We watch Nick Horvath right now in an actual battle for position with no lap traffic. That's John Quinn behind. Matthew Miles still trying to recover ahead of him. And John Quinn's going to get out of that battle. He thinks he's getting held up by Nick Horvath. He thinks there's a gap for him further down in the track, and he's going to join the fray of drivers who have come in addition to Matthew Miles as well.
So, the baby blue machine coming in with Matthew Miles also in front. Scheduled stops. Question is, how far do some of the drivers take it? We're already about 22 minutes in.
It's just a question of how long the fuel tank can go, really. I know when I was in this series, I would go for as long as humanly possible. Sometimes I'd be going out a lap later than everybody else, and I was like, how am I going a lap later than everybody else? Am I missing something here? Usually I was, but every driver was just pulling off a better strategy than me, and sometimes it's not completely optimal to go to the very, very end of the fuel tank, but there's no real negative to doing so. You can go as long as possible. You can stay out of traffic, and I think Ryan Miles got into trouble again in the midst of that anecdote.
Yes, he did. Ryan Miles did spin out. Here comes the send up the road now from that said spin. Kevin Sandiego also peeling in, as peeling around goes the blue and black machine.
Tyler Pierre Richards left a lot of room for Molaire. He knows they're running two different races. Tyler hasn't come in yet. Molaire has. I saw somebody in the chat earlier tonight say that they thought Tyler Pierre Richards was going to be sending it tonight. Some support from old Matthew Adkins, and he's been correct. Pierre Richards has been making some good moves, and he's also been very respectful of the leaders. But here's what happened to Ryan Miles down the carousel. It's an oversteery car, and it's an oversteery part of the track, and they did not add up very well there. Whoa! Molaire barely made it to the inside of Sandiego there. Those two pit stops have completely evened out. Molaire coming in early. He's really worked out here. It's hard to go side by side up the hill. He's going to have to back out of it. That was crazy. Molaire getting a little bit loose down the carousel as well. He's getting very, very aggressive on Kevin Sandiego, but you can see that nothing changed in position in terms of this battle, but James Molaire came in early. He got out of traffic. Kevin Sandiego was still racing a few other drivers. He still had Ozzie Milwain giving him pressure, and that's what really evened that out. But Kevin Sandiego still able to hold on to the position here, and now he's got to hope that Molaire doesn't hold him up too much while everybody else waits to come in. Waring, Coffray, Milwain, Fournier, just about everybody in the top five. There's another send by Molaire into the chicane. But again, that's almost an impossible place to actually make a move if you're not clear of the driver in front of you. Molaire's going to have to stick back again, but he really wants to make this move on Sandiego. This is the most aggressive I think I've seen James Molaire all season, and he spins it. He gets overly aggressive. He spins it around to the exit of the hairpin. Luckily, there's lots of asphalt to recover, but James Molaire tried to get by Kevin Sandiego. He's got a lot more ground to make up now. Jake Potts behind him as well. You saw these two drivers come in together. The two teammates, if I'm not mistaken, they were separated by quite a few positions. I think 7 or 8 positions before they came in. And now they're separated by 1 position. So that's how much time James Molaire has lost from that one simple spin, unfortunately. Still letting the pit cycle through here. Still a few more laps until everybody can come in, and we'll just have to wait and see how long can these fuel tanks go.
That's the major question mark. Trying to reduce the amount of time in the pit lane, mind you, with how things could play out with this strategy. 48 keeps going. Coffray coming into the pit lane this time. Michael Coffray has led some laps, but has slid back a fair bit in terms of time. Waring able to take off since being able to retake the race lead moments ago, remember, earlier on in this one. Also coming in to Greta.
See if Coffray's maybe saved a little bit of extra fuel with his early braking endeavors at the hairpin. 4.4 seconds in the box. Probably nothing saved there. That's pretty bog standard. John Quinn was in the box for 4.3. Brett Thurman was in the box for 4.3. There's a spin in front there, but I think that was one of our lapped drivers. Don't know who that was. That might have been Kwok Nin who spun around there. But recovery now for Michael Coffray after that pit stop. He's got to nail this lap. Maybe even hope that Andrew Waring runs into a mistake, and that's basically going to be his only hope of jumping Waring on the pit cycle, I think.
That's been easier said than done, though. Keep in mind throughout the night as we take a look at John Quinn. Some of the mistakes, very far few in between for a couple competitors. We see how Miles now takes this, Matthew Miles, for 13th position as the leader is in.
His teammate Ozzy Milwane behind him too. Both Evolve Sim Sport drivers. Matching strategies, no real surprise there. Fournier's going to come in as well. I think Takeshi Kito will as well. Everybody's going to come in. We've reached the hard end of the fuel stint. We've reached the end of these fuel tanks. And Andrew Waring, all he has to do is nail his pit stop here. He finds his box. He's going to be in there for 4.5 seconds. He's going to leave, and he should have still a very big lead over Michael Coffray. There he goes, and you can't even see Coffray. Now you can, crossing the line. Waring is in complete control here.
Waring doing Waring things yet again, looking for a third consecutive victory for the season. Might have a solid chance on trying to get towards maximum points yet again. Also, Richards completing service. Horvath went for about 4 or 5 seconds. His respective service. As we take a look at how far back the 6 cycled though. He and Potts lost a lot of time.
And the spin from Olaire didn't help either. These two are fighting as teammates now, but I think they're just trying to think, how do we continue to move our way forward? Because Takeshi Kita now, speaking of Mr. Sneaky, he was in 10th for the majority of this run, and after the pit cycle, somehow Takeshi finds 4 positions in him, and he's going to be at the front of this whole train, hoping to keep Malaire behind him. Malaire again super late in the brakes into the hairpin, almost takes Takeshi with him there. I'm sure Takeshi's going to be scared now because you know Malaire's getting aggressive. He's been aggressive all night. You've got to figure out how do you keep him behind and also not get taken out.
They're forced to reset though. Might take him another half lap for another chance here. They're now lined up with Potts. Remember, Potts was a fair bit behind the 41 for much of the run before the spin. Now you have the teammates indeed synced up as discussed here. They try and close in as well to Alex Fournier.
2 Knox teammates here. They've fallen back a little bit. Takeshi's got a little bit of breathing room, but it is a little bit of breathing room. It's breathing room, but it's not a lot. And Malaire has been so strong here through these S's to start the lap up over the top of turn 1. A little bit weaker than Takeshi, not going all the way to the right there and clipping the dirt there. It's not sand, by the way, just a fun fact. I always thought it was sand around the outside of Sonoma, and then I was very aggressively disproven. It's just dry dirt and earth and grass. It does get very, very green at other times. We don't have that on iRacing, unfortunately, but yeah, it's dirt. It's not sand.
Don't you remember those pictures from the 90s with all the races back then with the lush green scenery? Some fans miss that, I will say.
I would like to see it too. I think there was a test a couple years ago where NASCAR came here when it was green and it looked great, but I guess it just doesn't align with the schedules or whatever. But I want a green Sonoma. iRacing, next update, I'm gonna beg you for more things. Give me green Sonoma.
Meanwhile, send from Horvath doesn't work out. They are approaching a car that apparently has gone off the circuit in Campbell. Has gathered back up. Meanwhile, at the other end, you see them send it on in. Horvath's trying to find something here. Anything to be able to hold on to these spots, it seems.
Horvath went for like a little dance through the chicane there. He's pushing very, very hard. It didn't work for him, though, because come on without, come on within, you'll not get nothing with the mighty Quinn. John Quinn in front has been rock solid all night again. I've used that word so many times because there's been so many drivers who have been making mistakes at difficult tracks tonight, at Bathurst and at Sonoma, but John Quinn has not made a single one. He's been completely consistent, and that's why he's in P11 right now, because he's passed everybody who's spun behind him, and he's doing a great job of holding the dancing Nick Horvath behind him as well.
I have no idea where that reference was from, involving Quinn. I live under a rock.
No, you don't. It's a Manfred Mann song that was in a Joe Pera episode.
Oh, trouble for the 6.
Oh, dear.
Give the spot to Jake Potts, and that's how you end up letting your teammate go unintentionally.
And that's how you stop me talking about obscure references from canceled Adult Swim shows. James Malaire, another spin at the hairpin. He's pushing very, very hard. He might need to move that brake bias forward a little bit because it's looped him around twice now.
Yeah, so many spin arounds for some of these drivers, single car spins compared to the multi-car pileups we've seen earlier tonight in the iRoll4s at Bathurst. Down to the final 5 to go. Does anyone have anything to go for? You have Quinn and Horvath close, Potts and Muller still close. Also have a battle for 17th closing in. See how this plays out as Horvath tries the longer way for the run up to turn 1 and 2.
It's a tough sequence of corners because you want to set it up as far to the left as you can for the braking zone of turn 1 or turn 2 or whatever technically that is. I think technically turn 2 is the corner after that. Turn 1 is flat out. But even with cars with high downforce like that, you've got to make a decision. You've got to figure out, do you lift a little bit earlier to set it up better? It's a hard decision to make. An easy decision to make, though, is team orders between the Knox teammates. James Muller makes the move again, and he's clear of his teammate.
Is that a simple conversation or a calm conversation to have when you're saying, I lost it, I nearly spun out in front of you before, can I have my spot back? I won't spin again.
Yeah, if it happens again, if Muller spins again, something tells me that Jake Potts is going to be like, hey, you know, you can stick behind me here. I've let you buy twice and you've thrown it away, but they're good teammates. They're working together. I'm sure they're talking to each other right now, and Jake knows that Muller has a little bit more speed, and time is running out in this race. There's a 3.5 second gap up to Keshikita, and there's only 4 laps to bring it down. Muller might be able to do that on pace, but it's going to be difficult. But his teammate Jake Potts says, you know what, I'll let you have a chance, and maybe they'll do an old F1 style switch around at the end of the race. Maybe Potts will get that spot back coming to the line if Muller can't do anything.
Another trend that may get picked up as there's a little bit of dirt picked up on the tires, holding on still. A trend that you may have noticed from 7th to 9th, in fact 7th to 11th, is all J's. Here comes the side-by-side of the battle of some of the J's. Muller holding on. Justin Negretti has joined the fun because of it.
Speaking of letterology up at the top of the timesheets, things have run amok with the word spelled up at the top there. So NASCAR Chasm, if you're watching the PRL F4 and F3 series, which I hope you are, take that one for you. That's a good one. But yeah, Muller almost threw it away in front of Potts again. Potts is getting frustrated probably. If Muller spins it again, yeah, there's not going to be a third time letting it by.
For those that are not seeing that, it's amok at JJJJJJ Nimbato M something. And that's how you bottle that up with 3 to go.
Yes, this is high quality. What's the word for making word puzzles? I don't know. I'm running out of vocabulary
Wordle?
here. Wordle? Maybe it is a Wordle. Maybe it is a Wordle.
Wordle, Squirtle, crossword puzzle, Wordle. Muller and Potts trying to see if they can put on a show for 7th. Negretti still trying to drift behind them, doing everything he can to lose chances at it.
Jake Potts is now doing Muller style. They're getting loose coming down into the carousel. It's only been 26 laps, but these tires are really falling off for some of these drivers. It's not an especially hot day, I don't think, last I looked at the temperatures, but it's Sonoma. You're constantly turning. You're constantly putting these tires under heavy load. And Jake Potts and James Muller, both of them, I imagine on similar setups because they are teammates, struggling at the end of the race here. And that might just allow Justin Negretti to take another spot here. He's closed up to the back of Potts. If Potts struggles under pressure again, Negretti could be up at 8th.
Battle of the Jays continuing on to 2 to go this time. Ready. Move up. Keep in mind, some of the leaders dealing with blue flag commands. Richard Swindell has crashed himself off the track into the middle of the circuit. Meanwhile, goes the 9. How about that for a scare? That's Muller stomping in the middle of the circuit.
And that was the 3rd time. That's the 3rd time Muller has spun like that. And Jake Potts, if I was him, I'd be saying, no, you can deal with Justin Negretti back there. I am taking 7th. You can run your own race back there. But Muller has been on struggle street in these hairpins, unfortunately. It's easy to find yourself in a rhythm of making those mistakes. If you move even if you do move the brake bias forward, if you are locking the rears and spinning like that, it's easy to find yourself in that rhythm. If the tires are burned up, like I mentioned, like it seems like both of these cars are, those heavy braking zones, they come to bite, and it's always surprising.
Lap traffic moves aside, this time without peeling off the circuit, Richard Swindell's. Here comes Negretti with the send, nearly gets into the side pod of Muller. SR machine able to avoid contact, however. This allows Potts to run away. Look who's also there. Joey Haynes has a chance to move up spots from his plus 14.
And now Negretti's another driver getting oversteery off the exit of the hairpin. So everybody struggling at the end of the race here to put the power down on the exits of the hairpins and the exits of the chicanes. Again, he's getting all over the place. Joey Haynes is all over the back of Negretti. Potts and Molaire seem to have kind of solved things up ahead, but we've got an aggressive battle here for ninth. We'll see if Joey sends it into turn one. No, too far back, but he's going to wait for a better opportunity. He is clearly faster here. Negretti's struggling.
Down to the final lap, mind you, in this one. Negretti trying to find a way to hold on to the spot. Already hearing teamwork coming in. Jake Potts has been told, take the spot. And he's already been given twice, 3 times actually via spins, so that battle seems to have dissipated. Here comes Haynes, though, with a good run. Up at the front, though, Waring has had a near-picture perfect run. A couple mistakes here and there, but the points leader has done it once more. Andrew Waring for Evolve Sim Sport, for the 3rd time this season, wins this time at Sonoma.
Richard Swindells gets himself in the victory screenshot there as well, but completely dominant for Waring. 3rd week in a row. You can probably copy and paste what I've said in the previous 2 broadcasts because it still holds true. This guy in this F3 this season with Evolve Sim Sport, how can you beat him? How on earth do you get him off of his game? It's a great question, and everybody's going to have to figure it out here very, very soon.
Battle to the line. Negretti holding on in front of Haynes. Also, Horvath has completed his race in 13th, or so it shows. No, Brett Thurman trying to change that around. They nearly slam each other. Horvath holds on, holding off Thurman. Thurman trying to take the send at the last moment. Last the drivers looking to complete the race. Manuel Vargas, last driver to finish a respective lap cycle in this one. There is a look at Vargas, a -1 for the Agril CF racing machine. So in the end, 23 drivers out of the 29 starters take the checker flag tonight. Aero action for Formula 3 competition powered by VCO. Andrew Waring picks up a 3rd victory over Michael Kofre this time by almost 7 seconds. Ozzy Milwing, Kevin Sandiego, Alex Fournier the top 5. Takashi Kita sneaks up to the pack to 6. Jake Potts, James Molaire, Justin Negretti, and Joey Haynes the top 10. Haynes the biggest mover, up 14. John Quinn and Matthew Miles the top 12. Horvath and Thurman side by side, separated by about a 10th at the checkered. Oates finishes in front, and Pierre Richards finishes 17th. Vargas, Brian Miles, Placio, the 20 drivers on the lead lap. Lucio Vargas finishes a lap down. Richard Swindell's 3 down. Rob Campbell was the driver in the photo op situation, 7 down, however, in 23rd. Nico's in 24th. Raymond Day, a DNF, in 25th. Wada in 26th. Carter in, and Steven Ritters rounding out the field tonight. Domination Station once again for car 33. Andrew Waring picks up a 3rd victory on the season. He'll grow his points advantage, picking up a decent chunk of points, in fact, over Alex Fournier. Andrew Waring now joins us here in the broadcast booth. Andrew, a 3rd race victory. How are you feeling after this one?
Very pleased after that one. I mean, amazing track. Very bumpy, very hard. Just happy to get out of there with the car in one piece, but very happy that I was able to put that race together. It was a little bit more difficult than the other 2, and I felt like I really earned that one, and that was probably the best race of the 3 for sure.
Absolutely seemed to be for you, but it wasn't easy. How would you describe the battle you had with Michael Kofre charting tire blows a few times?
You know, it was tire to tire, which is fine. I have a single monitor, so I'm not sure. I felt like I left him a lot of room. I was being squeezed, which he's entitled to do, and I mean, nobody took each other out. It was just a little tire to tire, which should be fine. I enjoyed it.
So after the roller coaster here, 3 wins on the trot, 2 fastest laps, 3 poles on the campaign. How difficult will it be to keep this up?
I mean, I'm putting a lot of work in now as it is to keep this up, and honestly, qualifying, especially for this race, was everything. So I think the races are more a tribute to being able to put that lap together on in the 30 minutes. But I don't know. There's guys, you know, there's tons of guys in this series that, you know, are ready to swing at the top spot here. They just got to put a whole race together, I think, and there's something I'm doing on the pit stop that clearly people aren't, because I don't understand how I'm gaining 2 seconds on everybody under the pits every single race now. I really don't.
In practice makes perfect on entry.
Maybe that must be it.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on the victory.
Thank you so much, guys.
Andrew Waring picks up the W tonight. Third spot was a teammate to him, Ozzy Milway, 14 machine, jumped onto the podium with his car. He's with Joey.
Well, Ozzy Milwayne, it was a tough day, but you held off Kevin Sandiego. It looked like you jumped him in the pit cycle. That was a pretty titanic battle, at least it looked like from the outside.
Yeah, I got off to a bit of a shaky start there, cold tires and all. Got into 5th, I think it was, and then I wanted to get back by him because we started to lose the lead pack there, but I just kind of settled in and took it easy on the tires, and it worked out, like you said, in the pit stop there. I kind of figured he went in a lap early, and I kind of hunkered down that lap just because the car's quickest at that point, and I got ahead of him.
Seemed like a lot of people were getting caught out tonight and in somewhat weird places on the track. A lot of rear lockups, a lot of spins. What makes Sonoma so difficult? And I guess specifically this layout of Sonoma with that frankly terrible chicane.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of guys were complaining about it, but I honestly liked it. A lot of blind corners. I actually put a little bit more effort into this race, knowing it was a tough track. And I actually did a few official races this time. I usually never do, so it definitely paid off.
7 weeks left in the season. Your teammate is looking strong for the championship. Are you going to join him up there for the team's championship?
I hope so. We're looking good in teams. He's sitting first, obviously. He's won every race. I think I'm third. Yeah, just hoping for a top 3. I mean, he's a bit of an alien when it comes to sim racing, so I definitely look up to him, and I got to thank him a lot because he takes a lot of time to train me, and it's definitely paying off.
Right, well, congrats on the podium tonight, and we will wish you good luck for next week.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Ozzy Milwayne, P3 tonight, and we've got one more driver to talk to. A slightly special treat here tonight because you were so kind and you turned your Zoom on, James. I'll quickly get the race out of the way. I'm sure you hope to make it more than 3 laps, but you're supporting a more important cause tonight.
I did. I did come into this hoping that I would just finish. I've done very little practice this week because we're preparing for Bike MS in LaGrange, Georgia this weekend. It's a 2-day cycling event, and a bunch of us are motorcycle marshals supporting this event. My family's also volunteering to support this event. We've done it for the last 6 or 7 years. We usually raise around about $500,000 for MS research. So yeah, I was kind of trying to represent this evening and maybe do a little better than I did, but I braked a little earlier than Richard expected me to, and that was the end of my race. But what can you do?
Got your shout out in at the end. Is there anything the people at home can do to support your event?
Yes, you can reach out to, if you look up Bike MS online, and there's a fantastic website. You can look for events near you where you can participate. There's also a Walk MS as well if you don't feel like cycling, and there's events happening all across the country throughout the year, so you can either join in or choose to donate. It's a good cause.
James Carter, always supporting the good causes, and we wish you better luck in the race next week. But as of right now, that's less important. We wish you good luck with your event this weekend first.
Thanks, Joey.
James Carter supporting the good causes, and if you need to rewind to hear what he said again, I hope you can find the chance to donate, because it is a very good cause, and we always love to shout out to people who are doing good things with this sim racing, Justin.
Yes, indeed, an eventful one. I believe he called you Terry. But
did he call me Terry?
Yes, he did.
No, maybe an inside joke.
Okay, but in regards to that, though, exciting race tonight, exciting domination streak. How would you describe things, though, entering the next race for Circuit Park Zandvoort?
Well, Zandvoort is a track that has been very nice to me in these F3 cars in the past, but that's because it rewards high commitment, and it rewards people behind you being unable to pass you. It's a tough place to pass. You can make it work, but that track is going to be all about qualifying. It's going to be all about who can nail that setup, nail all the high commitment corners. And next week, with a track in Brazil for F4, IRO4, and a track in the Netherlands for the F3, I will not be doing Brazilian accents or Dutch accents, because the whole of the sim racing community will kill me personally.
Yes, they will. Okay, that should be a fun one, though, at Zandvoort, though. We'll have to see how things fare out. But it's been an adventurous night. Plenty of fun, plenty of dominating performances by your points leaders. But it's just about time to say goodbye. For our producer, Hugo Weiss, for my co-announcer, Joey Tebben, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching the PRLs, IRO 4s, and the Formula 3s, powered by VCO. Good night from Napa Valley.